Hello there. Just time for another little old man of the sea story. Uh, just before the sun goes down, really. Anyway, I want to talk about injuries that I've had at sea. You've already heard the story about how I knocked a great chunk of skin out of my shin on my left leg, because that's when I slipped and fell, and my leg went under the first rung of a flight of stairs as I was running towards the stairs. These were steel stairs. Anyway, I gouged out a chunk about an inch square, and as I was still going forward, I bobbed down and then came back up again in a different place and punctured another hole, just slightly above the original injury. But yeah, that really hurt. I thought I was going to lose my leg, to be fair. But yeah, that was on my first trip to sea qualified, where I flew out to the flew out to Chile and had to fly over the Andes, and that was quite an exciting flight, flying over the Andes. And the pilot says, "Don't worry, we're just about to come into Santiago, and we've got to take a sudden dive down over the Andes." The plane started flying along and then went straight down to the airfield. That was quite exciting. I've never been in an airplane in such a steep dive before. Anyway, right, so rambled on. Another injury that I had, which led to problems in this thumb here. I was carrying two great big heavy fuel pumps. I took them from where the generators were, and I brought them up in the lift, and I had one under each arm. And I went round to what we call the fuel valve workshop, where it was quite clean. You didn't have grinding machines and stuff like that in there, because you didn't want the dust getting into these very precisely machined components. Anyway, I took these fuel pumps up to the fuel valve workshop, and as I was walking across the deck, there was a ramp going over some pipes. Anyway, there was a spot of oil on the ramp as well, and I went arse over tit, as you do, and I banged as I went backwards. I cracked the back of my head onto the deck, and both elbows went down with these big fuel pumps under each elbow, under each arm. I went down and I dislocated both elbows and dislocated both thumbs. And anyway, this elbow went back in, no trouble. That was straight away. This one gave me grief for a long time, and the doctor gave me a steroid injection into the elbow, and I think it was the following day that I reached up my back to scratch something, and it popped back into place. So that was quite good. This thumb, that went back into place almost instantly, and that's been fine. But this one has given me grief for the last 20 odd years. It's just so painful sometimes. So I take painkillers for that. It's probably arthritic now, but yeah, that's not good. I got one of these massage guns that I sometimes run around the thumb, all over, and that does help a great deal. Another time, I was on a ship. I really hated that ship. The city of Cape Town, of Tulaga Bay, whatever it was called. It was it got renamed several times when I was there. Anyway, this particular voyage was extremely hot, and I'm talking everybody. When we came in for our tea break, there would be a puddle of sweat underneath where we'd been sitting. As the sweat was dripping off our boiler suits, it would amass around our legs and where our arms would be. But yeah, so it was a very, very hot trip, and we didn't have any salt tablets. Anyway, I was on duty this day, and an alarm had gone off, so I went off to answer the alarm. I wasn't running, but I was walking quickly. Anyway, something snapped in the back of my leg, on my left leg. I thought one of the lads had thrown something at me because it felt so painful, such a sharp sudden stabbing pain. I thought someone had thrown something at me. Anyway, and it just never got right. It was causing me a great deal of discomfort, and I didn't know what it was. So I went home and tried to rest up as best I could, and carried on. The next trip, I went out. I flew out to Singapore, again another hot country, and yeah, my leg was just so painful. It was absolutely unbelievably painful. My whole knee just felt like there was something completely wrong with it. Anyway, so I went home after that trip, and well, I took a year off on the sick because I was waiting. It took a year to get treatment. Although I was with the Dreadnought Hospital in London, I went up to London, and the guy had a look at it, and he said, "Oh, it's a bone bruise. There's nothing we can do about it." Anyway, so I went home, and this was in the year 1999, stroke 2000. So I had Christmas at home, one of the few occasions, with this bad leg, and it was the following Christmas that I went back, after it had taken a year before I could get any treatment from the Dreadnought. But yeah, anyway, so that was in 1999, and I didn't get any treatment for that knee until 2010. So that was a whole 10 years of excruciating agony, and it got to the point back in 2010 when I got to such a point where my mum said to me, because we went out to a park and I took some walking sticks because it was so painful to walk on that knee, and my mum said, "You need to get something sorted," because the whole colour had drained out of me because I was in so much pain. Anyway, so back in 2010, I took another year off, and I had a knee replacement back then. And to be honest, I haven't looked back. It's been 12 years of absolute bliss. I mean, after the initial operation, which bloody hurts, I can tell you. But after the initial operation, it's just wonderful. It's been a whole new lease of life to me. Absolutely amazing. My next injury that I had was on a fishing boat. My only time on a fishing boat, and I was filling the incinerator full of cardboard boxes and stuff like that. Because we processed the fish on board, there was lots and lots of cardboard boxes that the fish went into. But each of these cardboard boxes was packed in another cardboard box, and it was a cardboard box that we had to throw away, and well, we actually burnt in the incinerator, and it was rough. It was a rough day that day, and normally you get into the rhythm of a boat and how it rocks and rolls. Anyway, this wave caught me off guard, and the ship moved, and the incinerator door started to slam shut. Anyway, I put my hand up to try and stop the door from slamming, because it's made out of what we call refractory. It's like a stone type stuff that insulates the outside, or it keeps the heat on the inside of the incinerator. Anyway, I didn't want that cracking or breaking. Anyway, I put my hand up to stop it, and I couldn't stop it, and the interlock, which is a spike with a key on it, went through my hand. You probably won't be able to see it, but right there is and of course we didn't have any first aid on there, so I've got a piece of a workshop towel and a pair of rubber gloves, and I put the workshop towel over over the incision, and put the rubber glove on and carried on working, and luckily it didn't get infected. It just slowly healed. Very, very lucky on that occasion. Yeah, and another occasion, I was on a container ship. We'd come out from somewhere cold into somewhere hot, and condensation had started to form on the steelwork. That's right. I was down a fridge hold, And as I was climbing back up out the fridge hold, my hand slipped. One hand slipped and the other hand just came off the ladder, and I fell backwards. I fell about 6 foot down, and I landed on a ventilation trunking, which is square shaped. Anyway, as I was I think I damaged some ribs. Anyway, I landed on my back and rolled over, and then landed on the deck another 6 foot down. And boy, it was that a great deal of pain. Obviously, with some damaged ribs and bruised back, it was extremely painful. Anyway, I managed to climb out of this fridge hold and went back to work. Let me have an afternoon off because I was in a bit of pain. Anyway, the other occasion as well, I had a slip. I was on. This is again the ship that I'd hurt my twisted my leg on. It gave me the knee replacement. I was answering an alarm, and I ran down to the engine room. And this engine room was it was 3 flights of stairs down, or 3 stories down in 1 flight of stairs. Anyway, I slipped, and 1 foot come off, and I thought I was going over the side. I thought I was going to go through the handrail, but luckily my foot caught on the stanchion of the handrail, and that stopped me from going over the ship's side. Sorry, not over the ship's side, but stopped me going down onto the engine. I thought, bloody hell, I'm going to kill myself. Anyway, luckily my foot stopped my fall, but again I bruised my back, and that damn well hurt as well. And I think the last one I'm going to tell you about, the second from last one I'm going to tell you about, is when I was down I was on one particular ship out in Australia. We had these freshwater tanks down near the steering gear, and one of the sight glasses had broken, and I went to repair it with a piece of plastic hose. Hang on, someone's at the door. Hold on. Yes, there's someone at the front door. Sorry. Yeah. So I had this glass. It's quite a thick glass tube. Anyway, that had broken, and I had to repair it. So I got a piece of this clear plastic hose that was just a fraction too small to go over the glass. Anyway, as I was pushing the glass tube in this hand and the rubber tube in that hand, as I was pushing the glass tube over the end of this piece of rubber plastic tube, it shattered. This piece, and it went, stabbed it right into my hand, right there, and yeah, I could see bone again there if you opened it up. But it didn't bleed, which is very strange. Anyway, yeah, I could see the bone underneath, and but no glass in there, so that was all right. And the last one I'm going to tell you about is here, right across here, across the top of my nose there. We had this emergency air compressor in the emergency generator room. We had this emergency air compressor. That's our first start on board a ship. Is that emergency air compressor. That emergency air compressor will fill up an air bottle, which will allow us to start the emergency generator. The emergency generator will then allow us to start the air compressors for the main engines and generators, so that we've got energy to start the generators and main engine. The generators are they're started with compressed air. On your car you've got a starter motor. Well, these things are air powered starter motors, and they do the same thing. They engage and drive the whatever, and it starts the doodah, and we've got electrical power. Anyway, so we had to run up this emergency air compressor on a weekly basis. Anyway, the starting handle and the locating pin was slightly worn away, and not knowing anything, obviously no one had told me of any problems. I went to start it, and as I started it, the handle of the motor that I was winding around by hand suddenly flung off and smacked me. I didn't wear glasses at the time. Smacked me right in the middle of the bridge of my nose, and again that opened up and you could see the bone underneath. Yeah, there was nothing they could do. They couldn't stitch her up or anything like that. So what they did was they put a piece of sellotape on the end of my nose and on my forehead, and they brought the two bits of skin together. I know it was quite funny to look at, looking like a pig, but I had to have these, had to have the pressure on there so that the two bits of skin would knit together. Anyway, that got infected, and over the coming weeks, little bits of paint came out. The paint from the starting handle that was embedded in my head, as infection, they all popped out. But yeah, I've had a few injuries, slips, falls, trips. I have, like I say, I've stabbed myself several times, not just with glass, but I've slipped with a knife and gone into my hand and stuff like that, and general bruises and cuts on your hands, and all sorts of stuff like that. And of course, there's not a lot you can do. You can't just go home and lick your wounds. You have to stay on board ship and work through it. Yeah, so that's me and my slips and falls. Anyway, so I will catch you on the next one, and there will be a next one. I don't know when it's going to be, but if you subscribe, then you'll find out. So, and if you hit that like button, that helps with the channel, helps it grow, and helps get the views. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye, and have a nice afternoon.